perfect life of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So this, whatever we are reading, is directly recorded by a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. Not only that, he has done lot of investigation. He has done lot of studies, perfect in a scientific method, and then chronologically recorded everything, directly interweaving all the different people who were living with Sri Ramakrishna, who had direct contact with Sri Ramakrishna. All of them have been interviewed, have been taken into account, personally met, and all that is recorded here in the form of great master Sri Ramakrishna has been perfectly done by one of the greatest direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Even Swami Vivekananda hesitated to write the life because I do not know what way I will depict the life of Sri Ramakrishna emotionally. I may do something wrong. So this work was specially given to write this life of Sri Ramakrishna by Divine Mother herself or Sri Ramakrishna himself. So you can 100% believe whatever here Shardanandaji Maharaj has recorded. Now, we are now hearing directly the words of Sri Ramakrishna himself, how to do japa, how to do meditation. So is it not so wonderful? When the greatest of the avatars, Sri Ramakrishna himself giving the direct method how to do japa, how to do meditation. If the Lord himself is telling, if Narayana himself, Gadadhara Vishnu himself is telling, then what more do we want? Okay, Sri Ramakrishna is telling, at the time of meditation, said Sri Ramakrishna to the devotees who believed that God had forms, think that you have tied your mind. So our mind should be tied down to the feet of the Ishtadevata, whomever you are worshipping. Imagine the Lord physically sitting in your heart or wherever you like, and tie your mind to the feet of the Lord. With what? Is it a golden chain or is it a steel chain or the strongest of the chains? No. Think, Sri Ramakrishna is telling, feel that you have tied your mind with a silk thread. To the lotus feet. All of you have seen the silk cloth, silk thread. So the silk thread is softer and more delicate than the cotton thread. Especially the silk thread is used during Durga Puja. Silk cloth is put on by the worshipper. So while doing puja, they put this special silk thread, silk cloth. So now Ramakrishna is telling that tie your mind to the feet of the Ishtadevata whom you are worshipping during the time of japa meditation. Is it not so wonderful? Why don't you write it down? Because every day you sit and do japa, every day you do meditation. Is it not very, very important instructions given by Sri Ramakrishna himself? Should we just forget it here and forget it? So note it down, write down in a diary and protect it and read it every day without fail before meditation. Then before the japa, you do by the mantra given by your guru. So what is that? Think that you have tied your mind with a silk thread to the lotus feet of your chosen form of God. Anything it may be you are meditating. It may be Ganesha, it may be Shiva, it may be Narayana, it may be Vishnu, it may be Lakshmi, it may be Durga, it may be Kali, it may be Ramakrishna, it may be Sharda Devi. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling, think that you have tied your mind with a silk thread to the lotus feet of your chosen form of the God, so that your mind may not stray away from there. Why do I say Sri Ramakrishna is telling now? Why do I use only silk thread? Why do I say silk thread? Because those lotus feet of the Lord, the lotus feet of the Lord are indeed very soft and delicate. So you see the feeling. So the delicateness and the feeling of your heart, your devotion has to be expressed. It should be made practical. Your love towards the Lord or anything. Suppose when you have to show your love towards father, your mother, or your baby, a very tender baby is sleeping. Your child is sleeping on your lap. So now, how do you lift it up? How do you put it into the cradle or on the bed? Or how do you take care? Suppose you have to give bath to the child when it is awake. How will you give bath? You handle it so carefully, so delicately. So your love, your devotion, affection to that baby is shown through your delicate behavior, through your service, loving service to that child. Similarly, just imagine how delicate is the Lord. Is much, much more delicate, much, much more great than the baby, than the father, than the mother, is much, much more than all of these things put together. Then how should you handle? How should you behave with your chosen deity? So, Ramakrishna is giving a wonderful way. Think that you have tied your mind with the silk thread to the lotus feet of your chosen form of God, so that your mind may not stray away from there. Why do I say Sri Ramakrishna is telling? Why do I use this term silk thread? Because those lotus feet of the chosen deity, of the God whom you are worshipping, are indeed very soft and delicate. They will be hurt if any other kind of string, if you tie a rope or a thread made out of coconut coir, it may cut, then the feet of the Lord may bleed with the rough coconut coir or any other plastic coir or nylon thread or rope. Whatever you use may hurt the Lord. So Ramakrishna is telling, use the string of silk to tie your mind to the feet of the Lord. Because those lotus feet are indeed very soft and delicate. They will be hurt if any other kind of string is used. Then Sri Ramakrishna would sometimes say, should one think of the chosen ideal at the time of meditation only? Again, a very important, a pertinent question is asked by Sri Ramakrishna himself, and he is answering it himself. That is also very, very special. Ramakrishna is asking, should we think of God or meditate on God only during the japa, or only when you are in difficulty, or only when you are doing havan or puja or something? So Sri Ramakrishna himself is answering. He is himself raising the question, and he is himself giving the wonderful answer. So Sri Ramakrishna is asking, should one think of the Ishtadevata, chosen ideal, at the time of meditation or japa only, or when you go to the temple, or when you enter your shrine only, and then forget him? Very happily you forget him. That is what we do. So what is Sri Ramakrishna instructing now? Should one think of the chosen ideal at the time of meditation only, and then forget him at other times? You should always keep a part of the mind attached to him. You should always keep a part of your mind attached to him. You must surely have noticed. So he's giving an example, wonderful example. Recently, we have finished the Durga Puja Navaratri. In Durga Puja, it's a custom that you have to light a lamp. It will be enclosed within the glass case so that the wind or any storm or forcibly blown air should not put it off. It should not go off. So it should be always burning. What is the indication of burning a lamp, lighting a lamp and allowing that to be burning all through the 9 nights or 9 days of Durga Puja, Navaratri? It should never get off. Why is it? So the indication, the significance is also told by Sri Ramakrishna himself. What is the significance? We always do things mechanically, like a machine, with monotony, drudgery, fanaticism. We do things. The rituals will be followed. We see that we have forgotten the meaning. We don't know. We don't do it with awareness. So the present day, the present generation, presently the people are scientifically oriented. They always think logically. You should give them rationally determined. So because of the education, they are rationally determined. So if you just tell them, do this in this way, do not ask me the question. I have learnt it from my grandfather, grandmother, mother. Just you follow it. They will not obey you. They will not do it because they have been trained the present day universities in that way. So they'll ask you the question. Until you know the reason, they will not obey you. So first, you should logically understand. You should think on this. And not only you know it logically and scientifically, you should tell your children and grandchildren and the younger generation in such a way that they should be convinced. They should feel happy when they hear from you and they should be following it. So no monotony, no drudgery, not working like repeating the mantra like a parrot or working like a machine or a computer. So Ramakrishna is telling, why do we light the lamp during Durga Puja and allow it to burn all through the 9 days and 9 nights? So let us hear it from the holy mouth of Sri Ramakrishna himself. Sri Ramakrishna is telling, you should always keep a part of the mind attached to the Lord. You must surely have noticed that a sacrificial lamp has to be lighted at the time of the worship of Durga Puja. That light should always be kept burning near the deity. It should not be allowed to go out. If it does, if it goes off, it augurs ill. It may be like a bad omen. It augurs ill for the householder. Even so, after the chosen ideal is bought, so similarly, what is the reason? That we burn the lamp always 24 bar 7 all the 9 days and 9 nights. It is signifying that you should be always meditating on Divine Mother 24 bar 7 during Navaratri. Likewise, after you perform your morning and evening upasana given by your Guru, doing the japa, then should you throw away everything, forget everything, and very happily be immersed in the things of the world? No, Sri Ramakrishna tells that a part of the mind should be always kept attached to your Ishtadevata, even after japa, meditation, while you are driving, while you are working in the office, while you are going to the office, while you are dealing with anybody, while you are working with the boss. A part of the mind should be always attached to the chosen deity. You should be always aware the Lord is present with you. As Holy Mother Sharda Devi tells, my child, whenever you are in difficulty, you know for certain that your mother is behind your back and protecting you, so that you can feel all the time you're moving, going, that your mother is there behind you, protecting you. So that is the way Mother has given a technique by which you can remember, you can keep a part of your mind always thinking of the deity. Mother has given the hint how to do that. So always you have to keep a part of your mind, whatever you are doing. You're going to bath, you're going to a walk, you're talking with somebody, you're doing your work in the office, you're studying, you may be a student, you may be hearing the lecture of the teacher who is teaching you. All the time, keep a part of your mind, a small part of your mind, attached to the Lord. After the meditation, after the upasana, morning and evening, always 24 bar 7, even while you're going to sleep, let your part of the mind be immersed in the Lord. As soon as you get up, because I used to notice, I used to think of the Lord and then go to sleep. So in the dream or in that sleeping state too, there will be a part of the mind thinking of him. As soon as you wake up in the morning, immediately that thought will come back. The Lord, the picture of the Lord will come back. Whomever you are thinking while you're going to sleep will come back. So you'll be so joyful the moment you get up, even before going and seeing some photo of the Lord kept nearby in your shrine. The in the mind itself, in the heart itself, the picture of the Lord will be so live and it will arise in your heart. Isn't that wonderful? Sri Ramakrishna is giving the practical hints, wonderful method by which we can always remember God. And he's also giving the example of the sacrificial lamp lighted during Durga Puja. We'll go through that, go through the words of Sri Ramakrishna himself. It will be very, very fine. Should one think of the chosen ideal at the time of the meditation only or japa only and then forget him at other times? You should always keep a part of the mind attached to the Lord, your chosen deity. You must surely have noticed that a sacrificial lamp has to be lighted even while conversing on the phone. Even while conversing on the phone with your friends or anybody, you should keep a part of your mind. You should be always be aware that the Lord is with you, meditating. You should think of the Lord. We completely forget. We are oblivious of of our surroundings while chatting with the phone or working on the computer or doing some work. We very selectively forget, very happily forget everything. But Sri Ramakrishna is telling you should happily remember, keep your part of the mind. You should always keep a part of the mind attached to the Lord. You must surely have noticed that a sacrificial lamp has to be lighted at the time of the worship of Mother Durga during Navaratri. That light should always be kept burning near the deity. It should not be allowed to go out. If it does, it augurs ill for the householder. So now the significance of lighting the lamp is also being stated, and how that can be connected to our daily meditation. 24 bar 7 meditation is being taught by Sri Ramakrishna, connected to our life. How Sri Ramakrishna is making everything practical. Every ritual can be connected to your spiritual life, whatever it might be done in a fine way. Connect it, everything, turn towards God and see how you can enjoy. So that light should always be kept burning near the deity. Even so, after the chosen ideal is bought and seated on the lotus of your heart, your Ishtadevata is seated after the meditation. While one is engaged in worldly duty, one should watch at intervals whether that lamp or meditation of the chosen deity is constantly burning within or not. So, burning, the lamp is burning within your heart means what is the lamp burning in your heart? That means you're constantly thinking of the Lord. A part of your mind should be always attached to the feet of the Lord. Should be always see while you're studying how to do that. Suppose I'm a student, I'm studying something. How can I always keep my mind? Whatever you are studying now, read that and tell it to the Lord as if the Lord is sitting with you, or your mother in the form of the divine mother. If your divine mother is your Ishtadevata, think that your mother is sitting with you by the side of you, or you are sitting on the lap of divine mother, and you are reading and telling everything, explaining it to her as if she doesn't know, or to get ideas from her. You go on reading that and explaining it to her. Is it correct? Am I reading correctly? Have I understood correctly? Then something ideas will flash. So you will have joy. You will have fun talking to the deity. It should not be seen by others. It should be your personal thing. It should happen within you. Spirituality is always happening in your own chamber of your heart. Nobody else should know. So, like that, while you're walking, while you're going, while you're driving, always feel that Divine Mother is sitting with you, either in the form of Kali or Sharda Devi or Sri Ramakrishna or Krishna, Rama, whomever you like. Ganesha is sitting with you, and you are driving, you are always talking to them. You are telling about the things happening outside. See the garden, see the house, see those things happening there, as if you are talking to somebody when somebody is sitting with you. You can always telling, you can always be in touch with the Lord while driving, while working, while eating, everything, while going to bath, wherever you are going, whatever you are doing, 24 bar 7, you can be always be aware of the Lord who is within you, the chosen deity. So you'll enjoy every second of your life. You cannot have a morose feeling. You cannot have any stress or tension. Always keep the Lord with you. While one is engaged in worldly duties, one should watch at intervals whether your mind is still there, tied to the Lord. So that is being told by Sri Ramakrishna, whether the lamp is burning within or not. The lamp of meditation, the lamp of thought of the God is burning within you or not. Sometimes Sri Ramakrishna used to say, in those days, before beginning to meditate on the chosen ideal, Sri Ramakrishna is telling his own method of meditation. What is that? What did Sri Ramakrishna himself do? Sometimes Sri Ramakrishna is telling, in those days, before beginning to meditate on the chosen ideal, I imagined that I was thoroughly flushing out the inside of the mind. Sri Ramakrishna is telling how he used to feel during meditation. He's telling with his own words, in those days, before beginning to meditate on the chosen ideal, I imagined that I was thoroughly flushing. I was thoroughly flushing out the inside of the mind. You see, there exists various kinds of dirt and dust, bad thoughts and desires. Various kind of dust and dirt means bad thoughts, bad feeling like jealousy, hatred, anger. All those things are the dust and dirt, the bad thoughts and so many desires within your mind. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling, I imagine that I was washing them off and was then making the chosen ideal sit there. So recently, while performing the, what do you call, the Manasa Puja, in the Puja, significance of Puja class, on every Monday we are performing this Puja, worship, the significance or the science behind the worship. Now we are in the process of Manasa Puja. We have finished that and we have already nearing the completion of Visheshargya Sthapana. In Manasa Puja, we have to tell the mantra. What is that? Krit Padmasanam Dadyat Sahasra Rachyutamrutaihi Padyam Charanayor Dadyat Manaswargyam Nivedaye Tenamrtena Achmaniyam Snaniyam Tena Smrutam Akashatatvam Vistram Syat Gandhah Syat Gandhatatvakam Chittam Prakalpayet Pushpam Dhupam Pranan Kalpayet Tejas Tatvancha Deepartam Naivedyam Syat Sudambudihi अनाहतध्वनिर्घंटा वायुतत्वंच चामरम सहस्रारं भवेच्छत्रम शब्दतत्वंच गीतकम नृत्यम इंद्रियकर्माणि चांचल्यम मनसस्तथा Sumekhalam. Now the important thing starts. Sumekhalam Padmamalam Pushpam Nana Vidam Tata Amayadyaihi Bhavapushpaihi Archayet Bhavagocharam Amayam Anahankaram Aragam Amadam Tata Amohakam Adambancha Advesha Akshobakautata Amatsaryam Alobhancha Dashapushpam Vidurbudah. The first 10 flowers, we always give so many varieties of flowers, offer it to the Lord. In Manasa Puja, what are the flowers that you are offering at the feet of the Lord? The beautiful qualities, they are the negative aspect of the quality. How is it? Amayam. A means in Sanskrit absence of anything. We add a to that. Shuddhi, purity means, Ashuddhi means impurity. The negative of that. So now Maya is avidya or ignorance. So what is meant by Amaya? Absence of ignorance. So that you make it as a quality. The quality called absence of Maya, delusion, or whatever, ignorance, avidya. So Amayam, now that is a flower, positive flower. The negative aspect of is Maya, delusion or ignorance. So the positive flower, the quality which you are now offering to the Lord is Amayam, absence of Maya, absence of delusion, absence of ignorance, one flower. Anahankaram, ahankara is egotism, the bad pride and egotism. So absence of egotism is another flower. Keep it aside, offer it to the feet of the Lord. Amayam, anahankaram, aragam. Raga means attachment, dependency on others and things, the attachment to worldly attachments, they're called raga. Absence of raga, attachment to the Lord. Convert that into attachment to the Lord. Make it as a flower. That is a flower. Keep it aside, keep it at the feet of the Lord, offer it to the Lord in Manasa Puja. Amayam, anahankaram, aragam, amadam, mada. When you get more money, when you get more property, when you have so many facilities, you get a sort of pride, mada. Oh, see how great I am. How everything is there. That's called mada. Will be proud. So absence of this pride, amada. So many flowers. How much? How which of the 10 flowers? Different varieties of good flowers. Amayam, anahankaram, aragam, amadam, tatha, amohakam, moha, delusion. Now Dhritarashtra had that moha towards all his 100 children. They were so bad, but he thought they were so good. Moha. Why? Because they are the children. Whatever they do, the worst things they perform, still you have that attachment. You don't see that and correct them at all. That is moha. So amohakam. So amatsaryam, amayam, anahankaram, aragam, amadam tata, amohakam, adambancha, damba, adamba, absence of damba. Then aragam, amadam tata, amohakam, adambancha, advesha, absence of dvesha, hatred, absence of dvesha, hatred. Advesha, akshobakau, shobha, absence of the shobha, always in some sort of shobha, tension, worries. So absence of that. Amatsaryam, alobhancha, absence of jealousy, alobha, absence of greed. That is another flower. Dashapushpam vidurbudaha. These are the 15 flowers. All the negative things have to be converted into positive qualities and offered as flower at the feet of the Lord. These are all the 10 enumerated. There are another 5 wonderful qualities. What are they? These are all the 10. Dashapushpam vidurbudaha. Then ahimsa, paramam pushpam. Now the wonderful great flowers are given. What are they? Positive and great flowers. Ahimsa, non-violence, not hurting any human being, not hurting through word, thought, and deed, not injuring any animal or anything. So that's called ahimsa. Ahimsa, paramam pushpam, pushpam, indriya nigraha. What is another great quality? The control. Yesterday we were discussing in Bhagavad Gita. Indriya nigraha, control of your senses. So that is another flower. Ahimsa, paramam pushpam, pushpam, indriya nigraha, daya pushpam. So the flower of compassion, kindness, daya pushpam, kshama pushpam, forgiveness, forgiving whatever mistake they might have done, whatever bad quality they might be having, forgive it, forgiving. Ahimsa paramam pushpam, pushpam indriya nigraha, daya pushpam, kshama pushpam, gnana pushpam, the knowledge of God, wisdom of God is another flower. Daya pushpam, kshama pushpam, gnana pushpam cha panchamam, iti panchadashaihi bhava pushpaihi. With these 15 bhava pushpa, the wonderful qualities of your mind, the wonderful attitude, positive attitudes. So that you have to offer at the feet of the Lord in the Manasa Puja. These are the beautiful qualities you have to acquire and then offer to the feet of the Lord. So how can you do puja without having these good qualities? So you have to acquire if you don't have it. You have to give up all those bad qualities while doing puja because the Lord is coming and being seated in the heart, the lotus of your heart. The Lord will come and be seated in your heart, in your mind. Suppose you are having all these dirty qualities of jealousy, hatred, anger, all those qualities. How will the Lord come and sit there in your heart? You will run away. So many bad qualities, so many things is rottening there. All these bad qualities, hatred, Isha, jealousy, all those things are rottening in your heart. A wonderful experiment was done by a teacher in the class. What was that experiment? The teacher told that all the students in the primary school, maybe they were in the fourth or fifth grade, so impressionable age, she told them one day, I will give you a project work. What is that, madam? Yeah, you have to bring some 15 tomato in a plastic cover. Bring 15. Okay, they bought. Very easy. It is not such a great thing. The parents asked them, you have to carry that for many, many days in your bag. So, what is that? Now, imagine the name of people whom you don't like. Write on each tomato, whom you hate, whom you have ill feeling, whom you have jealousy on, whom which people you have the this thing that you should punish them. All those people you who hate and people whom you despise, you feel irritated when you see them. All those bad people you don't like, you write on the tomato. So write on that name nicely, permanent marker you put on that and keep that tomato in your plastic cover and keep it in a bag every day. You have to bring it every day and show it to me. Okay, very good project work, very nice. First day it was smelling sweet. Second day it was very good. Third day it started becoming soft. Fourth day the tomato started becoming very soft and breaking open and the juice coming out. So then the whole this thing what you call leaking, the plastic cover was leaking with the tomato juice. Okay, somehow they managed. Then after a week the tomato started rotting. So somehow they managed. Then the eighth day, ninth day, it started having very bad smell, stench. The whole bag is very bad smell. They're coming in this bus. They're coming in different ways everywhere. The bad smell is spreading. People are looking at them. People are feeling very bad. Now it was the turn of the parents now to come to the school and told, what is this teacher? You are given such a bad, but a peculiar project work. Now the whole bag is rotting, smelling, stench. So why can't you stop it? Yes, this was the project work I wanted to show. So you kept this tomato with the people whom you hate, whom you want to punish, whom you have that non-forgiving attitude, jealousy, and all the other things. For 15 days you kept in your bag and it is rotting and it is stenching. It is creating such a stench and bad smell. If that is the case with these tomatoes, when they're getting rotting for 15 days, what about the hatred and the bad qualities, the jealousies, the ego, the egotism, so many worst and bad qualities, the dust and dirt and desires, all the bad things are there in your heart. You are preserving that from so many lives. maybe 84 lakhs of life. You have nurtured all those things in your heart. And now in this life too, so many new jealousies, hatred, all the bad things you have collected, and how much stench, how much bad smell, how much those bad qualities, the dirt in your heart is creating. It is more worse than the gutter. It is more worse than the toilet pit, the septic tank. It is more worse than the septic tank because you are nurturing them, having that in your heart for many, many lives, many, many years. And what would be the stench? What would be the rot in your heart? So, will the Lord come and sit in your heart with all those bad qualities? That's why now Sri Ramakrishna is telling the way he was meditating. So, sometimes Sri Ramakrishna used to tell, Shardanandaji Maharaj is explaining, in those days, before beginning to meditate on the chosen ideal, Ishtadevata in the heart, I imagined, Sri Ramakrishna is telling himself, I imagined that I was thoroughly flushing out the inside of the mind, the subconscious mind, the inside of the mind, my heart. You see, there exists various kinds of dirt and dust, bad thoughts and desires within the mind, within the heart. I imagined that I was washing them off and was making the chosen ideal to sit there. So when you are making good people, at least some good people are coming. Temporarily, what will you do? Start cleaning your house, even though it may be dirty, even though the surroundings may be dirty. If some good people are coming to your house, what do? You give a thorough cleaning. So while Mother Lakshmi is coming during Deepavali, that is the significance of Deepavali, Lakshmi Puja. Lakshmi has come out of the Samudra Mantana, then she has married Narayana. She wants to come and visit all the houses of her children. So she'll be searching whose house is so. That's why Deepavali cleaning is very, very important. Before Deepavali, 1 week or 10 days before, there'll be a thorough cleaning. Deepavali cleaning means very thorough. So much of cleaning will be done, and then decoration will be done, then the lamps will be lit. Why? Because Lakshmi will be looking. Are there any cleaned houses? Very nicely they have cleaned and they have decorated and they have lit the lamp. To such houses, Lakshmi will visit and give wealth and give her blessings and everything. That's why during Deepavali they clean everything, they light the lamp, they decorate, they do all the sweets to welcome Lakshmi. So if that is the case, you have to do the thorough cleaning. If the chosen deity wants to come and sit in your heart, how can you keep your heart, your mind so dirty with all those bad thoughts and hatred, jealousies, and all the other qualities? So absence of all those things had to be positively converted into flowers. Daya Pushpam, the flower of kindness. Kshama Pushpam, forgiveness. You have to forgive whatever mistakes they might have. You have to keep that, the mistakes they have performed, keep it in your memory. You should forget it, forgive it, forgive and forget. So we receive everything from God, the grace and everything, and we forget. But here, you have to forgive and forget all the bad qualities. Otherwise, you can know. Now I gave the example of the stench you create, the bad septic tank you create, the toilet pit you create in your own heart. Even worse than that, the toilet pit is better. The public toilet is better than your heart and mind. It will be so bad with so many, all these bad qualities of hatred, jealousy, anger. It's worse than the public toilet. Your heart and your mind will be worse than the public toilet. And that will come out in the form of diseases. So many varieties of diseases you will get because of those bad qualities of hatred. That creates emotional imbalance, that creates tension, stress, and everything. That rottening in your heart with all these bad qualities will create anxiety. It will create depression. And see the emotional imbalance, how they suffer. Every moment, every second, they are suffering. So put it out. The Lord will come automatically. Lord is always there. So much of stench, so much of dirt is there. Ramakrishna is giving a wonderful method, practical method, how you can purge it out, remove it. because the Lord is already there in your heart. Nothing new is to be bought. Only the thing is you have to remove the dirt, the stench, the dust. I'll give you an example. There is a story of Akbar and Birbal, but they tell that many historians during the earlier rule they wanted to bring in the secularism, so it was all there was no this thing called Akbar and Birbal stories. It was all concocted. It was all the happenings by Tenali Ramakrishna, a great witty poet, and another great king that was Krishna Devaraya and Tenali Ramakrishna, because they were Hindu kings. So if that Hindu kingdom, which ruled for 300 years, protecting the Islamic invasion, is given to Hindus, then they will get the self confidence and they will grow strong. Then secularism will not be there. So, with that idea, they destroyed all the history. The socialists and the other people in India, they destroyed all that histories and converted and gave the name of Islamic invaders. Aurangzeb and other people were aggrandized. Birbal, Akbar were aggrandized and given the wrong thing. So all those stories of Akbar Birbal have been taken from Tenali Ramakrishna and Krishna Devaraya. Krishna Devaraya was a Hindu king to protect the Hindu kingdom. So if he is portrayed, then the Hinduism will come up. The other governments, secular governments will drown. So they did it. They wiped off all the history of India, real history, and then the wrong histories were given, whatever that might be. So that story is Akbar and Birbal, but it is not Akbar and Birbal. It is Tenali Ramakrishna and uh, Krishna Devaraya. Okay, we will now, because that story is in the name of Akbar and Birbal, I will tell in that form itself because we'll grasp the idea. So once Akbar asked Birbal as to what is the most joyful thing in life, what is the most blissful thing in life. It is a little indecent, bear with me. Then Birbal told Akbar, when you have the problem of constipation, or even without having constipation, purging out of the excreta from your large intestine early in the morning or in the evening, whenever, putting out that, putting out the urination and other things from that is the most enjoyable thing. Then Akbar got a little angry. What is this? What kind of reply you're giving? That to in the court to the king. Prove it, otherwise I'm going to punish you. Okay. So once they were on a jolly ride on Yamuna, going in a boat. So this Birbal, the minister, told the boatman to take the water to the center. In the forest, it should not go towards the land. So for a long time, they were traveling, and it was more than 7 or 8 hours. So Birbal, Akbar wanted to go to toilet and urinate. So it is creating a lot of problem now. Birbal has told the boatman not to take to the sides. It's in the midst of the forest. Whatever you do, you can't do. People are there. Now Akbar want to relieve himself, go to the nature call, but he cannot. So it is building up. The pressure is building up. Akbar is in trouble. Then after there was no other way. Now if the boat is not taken, Akbar might urinate or excrete in the boat itself. That was the condition. He would jump into the water. Now Birbal allowed that person at the last moment to be taken to the forest edge of the river, and Akbar ran into the forest and relieved himself of the nature call. Then he came off after all the ablutions and washings. He came back. Then now Tenali Ramakrishna, or sorry, Birbal asked Akbar, now Raja, did you come to know that what is the blissful thing or most enjoyable thing is putting out the dirt from your body? So sadhana and all the things is nothing but purging out the bad things in your system is very, very important. Avidya, Maya, all the dirt, all the hatred, all the things as a stench, even worse than the septic tank, sewerage, the sewer line or the toilet pit. So much of stench we have collected, worse than that, from so many lives, from so many years in our heart, in our subconscious mind. Purging that out, then the Lord will automatically come to your heart. Clean it. That cleaning is important. So before meditation, Sri Ramakrishna is telling, is also instruction to us. Sometimes Sri Ramakrishna would say, in those days before beginning to meditate on the chosen ideal, I imagined that I was thoroughly flushing out the inside of the mind. You see, there exist various kinds of dirt and dust, bad thoughts and desires within the mind. That is the reason for all the diseases. Why do you get asthma? Why do you get the migraine headache? Why do you get stomach ache, back pain? There are all these bad thoughts pent up, built up from so many lives. They're trying to come out. The steam is coming. The pressure is trying to come out. They come out where the body is weak. So it will come out in the form of asthma. If your lungs is weak, if your back is weak, then it will come out as back pain. If your the weakness is in your head, then you'll get it as a migraine headache or so many other pains, so many other diseases. So it tries to come out. All the stench is trying to come out. So instead of that coming out in the form of disease, the psychosomatic diseases, pains, and other things, why don't you remove it yourself? Then there'll be no pain, no disease, all that asthmatic bouts of asthma problems, all the pain, all the so many psychosomatic diseases can be avoided. What is the way? Remove those bad thoughts, remove those bad ideas, the pent up, all the bad qualities are to be given up. That is what Sri Ramakrishna is telling. It's very, very important before meditation. Every day you have to purge all these bad thoughts from your mind. So Ramakrishna is telling us a wonderful practical way. What is that? In those days before beginning to meditate on my Ishta Devata chosen ideal, I imagined Ramakrishna is telling his own method. I imagined that I was thoroughly fleshing out the inside of the mind. You see, there exist various kinds of dirt and dust, bad thoughts and desires within the mind. I imagined. Now you can also imagine before meditation every day. I imagined that I was washing the whole mind inside out. So I was washing my mind, my heart of all those dust and dirt, the bad qualities, the bad desires, the hatred, the anger, everything I was washing them off and was then making the chosen ideal. Then I was making the chosen ideal to sit there in the heart. Do just like that. See, Ramakrishna, after telling his own method, he's telling us now, he's commanding us, he's telling us, do just like that. Mark it, write it down in your diary, put the date, preserve, do it every day, practice it every day. Ramakrishna is telling, do just like that. Then, going forward, Sri Ramakrishna spoke to us at one time about the meditation on the two aspects of the Divine Lord. So it is all about japa and meditation and our sadhana. So Ramakrishna is now instructing us his own method. He's telling us how to do. We have found so many different things given by Ramakrishna now directly, practically. What is he telling further? He's telling, Sri Ramakrishna is telling the Master spoke to us at one time about the meditation on the two aspects of the Divine Lord. What is the two aspects of the Divine Lord? The one with form. So if you are meditating with form, and the other without form. So if you don't want today to meditate on the Lord without, that is with form, then you can meditate without form. It's the same thing. It's with the form, it is just like the ice, water taking the form. Without form, it is just like the steam or the water, the same formlessness of the Lord. You can enjoy. As devotees of Sri Ramakrishna have that advantage. You can meditate with form, without form, with attributes, without attributes, as light, whatever way. That is a speciality in Hinduism. So much of freedom is there. You can enjoy your spiritual life. No drudgery, no monotony. You can enjoy Leela Dhyana. So Ramakrishna himself is telling, what is that? Ramakrishna, the master, spoke to us at one time about the meditation on the two aspects of the divine Lord, the one with form and the other without forms. He said, some reach the formless aspect through that with forms. So, from the formless aspect, people will go forward in spiritual life and reach the formless. So, some reach the formless aspect through that with forms. Others attain that with forms through the formless. See, is given both the methods. You can attain the form starting with formless meditation. Some people start with meditation on the form and then go to formless. Some people start with formless and then go to form. Anything can happen. There is no watertight compartment. Nobody will force you to do something and do like that. That's why the first and foremost condition of spiritual life, according to Swami Vivekananda, is liberty, freedom. So, see how much of freedom. This is Hinduism. This is the speciality. Where is this freedom in other religions? You don't follow whatever is told there, your head will be chopped off or you will be debarred. You will not be allowed to come to the cemetery, or after your death, they will not give a place in their cemetery. So, no such restrictions in Hinduism. You have the freedom. You want to meditate on Shiva? Wonderful. The formless aspect of Shiva? Wonderful. You want to meditate on Mother Durga Parvati? Wonderful. You're welcome. You want to meditate on the Lord without form? Wonderful. You don't believe in God? Wonderful. Have you become an atheist? Wonderful. Continue as you are. Go forward in spiritual life. That's very, very important. Your character is important. You becoming God is important. What is told in Buddhism and Jainism? They don't believe in God with form and other things. And what is told? It is for you to become Buddha, you have to become Mahavira. You have to become, you have to get the divinity within you. That is more important in Buddhism and Jainism. But in Hinduism, everything is given. To see God, you worship God with rituals, with form, gradually going to without form, you yourself becoming the deity. Every aspect is covered. Nothing is left out. That is the speciality of Hinduism. Not one, just one raga. Raga Raginis, varieties are given. Ramakrishna used to compare about the other religions and Hinduism. What is the difference? Ramakrishna himself, the great avatara, was told that all the religions, all the paths lead to that same one God. So Samanvaya Acharya, Samanvaya Acharya of this millennium is Ramakrishna. So such a person is telling what is the greatness of Hinduism. The other religions used to tell, have you seen the way they play Shahana in the temple or in the marriages? Or if you go to South India, there will be Nadaswara. There will be big, long Nadaswara. They will play like this. Shahana also, it will be short. Be like this, short. They'll play like this. And Nadaswara will be very long. Dum, dum, dum. They'll beat the drums and then they'll play. Shahana also, they will play in the temple and in the marriages in North India. So that thing is referring, Ramakrishna is referring. Those people, one person there in that group, you should see in olden days. Nowadays, there are so many Tanpura, electronic Tanpura or other things have come up. But in olden days, what they used to do, there was one person, he will be just blowing one tone, only one tone. What is that? Boom, he will make the sound. That will be giving the Shruti, the tone. So based on the tone, whatever is that tone, then the Raga Ragini will be played on that. So the other person who is expert in music will start playing so many ragas. So first time it may be Shivaranjani, then it may be Hamsadvani, it may be Mohana, it may be Malkons, it may be Vrindavani, Sarang, whatever raga, ragini, so many varieties in raga. There are male and female also. Male, the tones are called raga. If it is female, it is called ragini. Even in the tone, music, there is male and female. Male is raga, female is ragini. Shivaranjini, Bhairavi is ragini. Raga, male, Bhairava. So all those things are raga, ragini. Like that in rivers also, there are male and female. That is called nada and nadi. Nadi is female, Nada is male, Brahmaputra is Nada, male. Like that, there are so many male rivers. They don't help much. They cause havoc. They flow as they like, and destruction will be there. They are male. Female are very helpful. They will flow properly and help the people to give more towards this thing. And also, the other reasons are also there, flowing towards one side. They are called another. Starting at one place and flowing to one portion of the river or the ocean is another. Another is nothing. So many other things are there. Let us not go in there. If you know that there are male and female rivers, Nada and Nadi, that's enough. And like that, Raga also, there will be Raga, Ragini, male and female tones. So Ramakrishna used to tell one person will be always blowing a tone, baritone or boom, that one word will be, one tone will be there. So basing upon that, all the other Raga Raganis will be played by another expert. So Ramakrishna used to tell that other religions are like this person blowing one tone, only one tone. Formless God, boom, that's all, nothing else. But Hinduism, oh, you can get everything. Which, what do you want? Do you want Ganesha? Yes, you have it. Do you want to become atheist? You have it. Do you want to believe in Shiva? You can have it. Without form, you can have it. Without form, with attributes, you can have it. Without form, without attributes, you can have it. Formless, you can have it. With form, you can have it. Whatever. So that is Raga Ragini varieties in Hinduism. That is the speciality of Hinduism. Ramakrishna himself has told this. I am not giving this example. Is to give the example of the musician. The other religions are like that, monotone. Boom, that's all, nothing else. These beautiful ragas will come. So many varieties, thousands of ragas. So that is the speciality of Hinduism. So Ramakrishna is telling, what is that? The master spoke to us at one time about the meditation on the two aspects of the divine Lord. Some reach the formless aspect, some reach the formless aspect through that with forms, and others attain that with forms through the formless. Can you imagine? Master Mahashay, when he came, he was highly educated in the Western standard. He came to Ramakrishna. He was asking, if you believe in the formless, how can you believe in the form? How can God be formless and form? Ramakrishna explained, yes, he can be anything at any time. That is the all powerfulness, is omnipotent. A all powerful person can become anything at any time. Why are you limiting God? Telling that, oh, God will be only formless. No. Ramakrishna tells Master Mahasaya in the beginning of the gospel itself. You read the gospel and note it. So now you can see Ramakrishna is telling that some people reach the formless aspect through that with the forms. First, starting with the form, they will reach the formless aspect. And some people start with the formless meditation and liking God without form, then they will attain formless. See, so much of variety, so much beautiful things are there in Hinduism. Ramakrishna himself is telling, because he's an expert, he's an authority, he has practiced all the different types of religious practices. So no doubt at all, you can have 100% faith. At the house of the great devotee Girish Chandra Ghosh, a friend of ours, Devendranath Basu, one day asked Sri Ramakrishna, Sir, Mahashai, which is higher? Oh, we have all these questions and very funny things, funny imagination. Which is higher? Which God is higher? Which God is lower? Which is great? More stronger God? All the inner, our uh, bad things, we put it on God also. Which God is higher? Which is great? Formless or form with form? What is great? Nothing. It's the same God taking different forms. Where is the question of Him being great, Him being low? For you, if you like that God is greater. Okay. Don't decry the other person. That is what Ramakrishna used to tell. If you like some God, think that God is the greatest of all other gods. But don't decry if somebody is having another path. Let him enjoy it. Let him think that is the highest. So that's why in our Puranas you can see sometimes Shiva will be aggrandized, made great. Sometimes Vishnu will be made. Sometimes Durga will be made. Enjoy everything. That's all. There ends the matter. No hatred. Nothing. no fanaticism. So at that house, Devendranath Basu, when Sri Ramakrishna had come to the house of Girish, a devotee, one day Devendranath Basu asked Sri Ramakrishna, Sir, which is higher, the conception of God, the conception of God with forms, or that of without forms, which is higher? God with form or without form? Which concept is higher? Is asking Sri Ramakrishna. There are, to which Sri Ramakrishna replied, there are, replied the master, two conception of the formless aspect. In formless aspect itself, there are two concepts. See the varieties, see the depth of Hinduism, and see the depth of understanding of Sri Ramakrishna's sadhana. In formless, Sri Ramakrishna is telling there are two aspects. What are they? The ripe and the unripe. Sri Ramakrishna is telling, replied the master, there are two conceptions of the formless aspect itself as two conceptions. What are they? The ripe and the unripe. The ripe conception of the formless aspect of God is very high. Indeed, one has to reach that through the aspect with forms. You can reach that higher aspect of the ripened aspect of the formless. You have to reach that through the forms, aspect with the forms. As regards the unripe conception of the formless aspect, it is all darkness as soon as one shuts one's eyes, as in the case with the Brahmos, the Brahmo devotees, the Brahma Samaj people. They are the unripe, formless aspect is being worshipped. The moment you close your eyes, you see only darkness, nothing. So that is unripe meditation on the formless aspect. But there is the ripe aspect, the higher aspect in formless itself. Two concepts, the ripe and the unripe. So that unripe can be reached through the forms, Sri Ramakrishna is telling. As regard the unripe conception of the formless aspect, it is all darkness as soon as one shuts one's eye, as in the case of the Brahma Samaj, is also giving the example. So that is the unripe concept of formless meditation. So I will go through that again. Sri Ramakrishna, when a devotee asked him, Devendranath Basu, in the house of Girish Chandra Ghosh, to Sri Ramakrishna, a question was asked one day, Sir, which is higher, the conception of God with forms or without, or that without forms? To which Sri Ramakrishna replied, there are, replied Master, two conception of the formless aspect itself, the ripe and the unripe. The ripe conception of the formless aspect of God is very high indeed. One has to reach that, the ripe concept of the formless, which is very high, that has to be reached through the aspect with forms. As regards the unripe conception of the formless aspect, it is all darkness as soon as one shuts one's eye, as in the case with the Brahma Samaj people, the devotees, Brahmos. So, Shardanandaji Maharaj is adding a notes here. Let no one think that Sri Ramakrishna condemned the Brahma Samaj people or the modern knowers of Brahman. We have mentioned it out of regard for truth. So it's only comparison. We have again and again heard him utter the words, salutation to the modern knowers of Brahman, that is Brahma Samaj, when he saluted all the devotees of all the denomination at the conclusion of the singing of God's name. Everyone knows that it was the great devotee Keshav, the well-known leader of the Brahma Samaj, who first preached Sri Ramakrishna to the public of Calcutta, and Vivekananda and a few others of the monastic devotees of Sri Ramakrishna freely admit that they are indebted forever to the Brahma Samaj. They all came through Brahma Samaj. So it is not a condemnation. So then it is only comparison to help us understand. Now we are moving to the next aspect of these things as told by Sri Ramakrishna. As a result of Western education, there was also another circle of devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. So many varieties of people were coming to Sri Ramakrishna. One group was, as a result of Western education, there was also another circle of devotees of Sri Ramakrishna who were proceeding in sadhana, who were proceeding in spiritual life through the unripe conception of the formless aspect of God. Generally, after having some half baked knowledge of Western education, we tend to become the formless worshipping people. Formless, formless. We don't want form. We're all modern people. We're educated. So we will not believe with forms. What is that? All forms. So such a air of superiority will be there. So those such kind of people also would come to Sri Ramakrishna. As a result of Western education, there was also another circle of devotees of the master, the Brahma Samaj people with the unripe aspect of formless meditation was there with them. There was another group as a result of Western education. There was also another circle of devotees of Sri Ramakrishna who were proceeding in the sadhana, the spiritual practices through the unripe conception of the formless aspect of God. So Sri Ramakrishna forbade them to imitate the Christian missionaries in condemning the meditation on the aspect of God with forms. Note it, very, very important. We have to keep it in our mind. Ramakrishna forbade them, stopped them. What is that? That is wrong. You should never condemn anybody. He forbade, Sri Ramakrishna forbade those people to imitate the Christian missionaries. You can see if you go to the Christian churches, to the missionaries who want to convert, who want to proselytize, their basis is they will condemn other, whether not only in Christianity, it is in Islam too, while proselytizing, converting other people. It's not transformation, just increasing the number, converting them, that's all. So they condemn other religions as pagans, satanic way of thinking, Satan, pagan sinners. So they go on heaping criticism and everything. They use hook or crook to convert. These are all not the teachings of Jesus Christ. Where Jesus Christ's teachings were very high, but the missionaries, that's why Abhedanandaji Maharaj used to tell when people used to come to convert him, I believe in Christ, not churchianity. I want Christ, I don't want churchianity. That's to only make money and increase the number of people. That's all. It's not religion. It's just business, proselytizing. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling, Sri Ramakrishna forbade that group of devotees, Western educated people who tried to condemn the people who are worshipping with images, with idols, the image worship and other forms, God with forms. He forbade the young Western educated people to imitate the Christian missionaries or any other missionaries in condemning the meditation on the aspect of God with form. It's very, very bad. The condemning of other religion, condemning of other forms of worship. Do not try to imitate the Christian missionaries. That is very, very wrong. Sri Ramakrishna himself forbade his devotees to imitate the Christian missionaries in condemning the meditation on the aspect of God with forms, in hating the devotees going forward in sadhana. Never hate, never condemn anybody with the help of images or other symbols of divine Lord. And in calling them idolaters, blind believers, and so on, do not do that. If somebody is at the lower aspect of the worship, encourage him from there to go to the higher aspect, allowing to grow naturally. Let there be evolution, not revolution. No revolution. They would never believe in revolution. It was all evolution. It's a gradual process. Never people should be disturbed from their faith. So note this very, very. Ramakrishna forbade his young devotees who were in the Western education to imitate the Christian missionaries or Islamic missionaries in condemning the meditation, the aspect of God with forms, in hating the devotees going forward in sadhana with the help of images or the symbols of the divine Lord, and in calling them idolaters and blind believers and so on. He said, it is true that he is with form, And it is equally true that he is without form. Who knows what else more he can be? He is, besides these things, he may be with form, he is without form, he is true, he may be more different than this. You know, only form and formless. He may be much, much more than that. So many different way he may manifest. So don't limit him and tell him that you are idolaters, you are what you call blind believers. Let them come up in that way. The Lord can manifest in any way. He's so compassionate to the children, he will come down to their level, any level they are, and lift them up. If he's so compassionate, why are you so fanatic? Why do you want to limit Lord? Why do you want to criticize? If Lord himself wants to come, there is a saying in India, if the Lord wants to give the vara, the boon, but the pujari will not allow him to give the boon. There's a saying in India, many people in parts of India they'll be telling. The Lord wants to give the boon, but the priest doesn't want to give. That boon will given by the God. God himself can come down to any level to help us to come up. But we are telling they're wrong. They're idolaters. They're blind believers. No. He said, it is true that the Lord is with form and is equally true that he is without form. Who knows what else he is besides these? Do you know how God with form is like? Sri Ramakrishna is asking, do you know? Do you know how God with form is like? It is just like the ice formed in water. What a wonderful way. Nobody has given this beautiful example. Do you know how God with form is like? It is just like the ice formed in water. By freezing, water becomes ice. Ice is water inside as well as outside. Ice is nothing but water. But look here, water is no form. It has no particular shape, but ice has. Similarly, the indivisible existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute, that is the formless, attributeless God in his real nature, that is indivisible, akhanda, Sat Chit Ananda, existence, infinite absolute, consciousness, knowledge, infinite absolute, bliss, infinite absolute. That is Satchit Ananda, Akhanda Satchidananda, Parabrahma. Similarly, the indivisible existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute get condensed, as it were, through one's devotion. Because of your intense devotion, that is like freezing cold. So he freezes, takes a form because of one's devotion, bhakti, and assumes various forms, like there are different forms of ice. This analogy used by Sri Ramakrishna must have clarified the doubts of countless of people. What a beautiful analogy. What a scientific analogy. So that analogy of Sri Ramakrishna must have clarified the doubts of countless people and convinced them that these two apparently contradictory aspects can coexist in the Supreme Being. This has to be noted. The spiritual life, we should not have this hatred, jealousy, and other things for other groups. It should not be one sided. The others also should feel that. So now we cannot but make mention here of another fact. What is the other fact Shardananda Jimaji is telling? Swami Vivekananda was the foremost in the circle of the master's devotees following the unripe doctrine of the formless aspect of the divinity. So, due to the Western education, they're following the unripe doctrine of formless aspect of divinity. The master placed him above all, not only of this class of devotees, but all other classes of devotees. Having come under the influence of Western education and also getting influenced by Brahma Samaj, Swami Vivekananda used sometimes to pass uncharitable remarks on the devotees who believed in forms and idols, and also who had who people would think they had blind belief. No, it is where is the blindness in belief? Belief is always blind. That is what Ramakrishna told Vivekananda. Now maybe that same thing is coming. Yeah. The master placed Vivekananda above all, not only of this class of devotees, but all classes of devotees. Having come under the influence of Western education and also of the Brahma Samaj, the Swami, that is Swami Vivekananda, used sometimes to pass uncharitable remarks. His tongue was very sharp on the devotees. This mood was particularly noticeable in him at the time of argumentation. But Sri Ramakrishna, master, enjoyed the fun sometimes by bringing about a vehement discussion between him and other devotees of God with forms. During such discussions, it often happened that none could stand his argumentation. He was very sharp, very brilliant, most intelligent. None could withstand or face the argumentation of Vivekananda. During such argumentation, when Sri Ramakrishna used to enjoy, make those other devotees to argue with Vivekananda and bring out the truth, then Ramakrishna would give the conclusion. So during such discussions, it often happened that none could stand Vivekananda's argument and some felt hurt. Some felt hurt when silenced by his keen intellect. Because of the sharp intellect, he would silence them. Sri Ramakrishna also described joyfully the fact to so many people on many occasions and said, the other day, Narendra, that is one would be Vivekananda, Narendra cut to pieces. He cut to pieces the argument of so and so with utmost ease. Ah, what sharp intellect, and so on. But Swami Vivekananda was silenced on one occasion during a discussion with Girish Chandra Ghosh, who followed the doctrine of God with forms. Girish Chandra Ghosh followed the doctrine of God with forms. It seemed to us on that occasion that in order to make Girish's faith more firm and perfect, Sri Ramakrishna took the side of Girish Chandra Ghosh. However, in the course of conversation with the master on another occasion, Swami Vivekananda referred to the faith of the devotees of God with form as blind faith. Swami Vivekananda immediately in the argumentation, he started even arguing with Ramakrishna. He put forth this argumentation telling that whatever these devotees with idols, with forms, that is blind faith, he told in the argumentation. He argued with Ramakrishna also. Can you argue with Ramakrishna? Either it may be Vivekananda or even greater than Vivekananda. Can anybody argue with Sri Ramakrishna? However, in the conversation with Sri Ramakrishna on another occasion, Swami Vivekananda referred to the faith of the devotees of God with form as blind faith. The master said in reply, well, Narendra, well, can you explain to me what do you mean by blind faith? Ramakrishna asked him, well, Narendra, can you explain to me what do you mean by blind faith? All faith, all belief, all faith is indeed blind, is always blind. What is meant by faith? What is meant by belief? You blindly believe something. Is there eyes for faith? Is there eyes for belief? Belief or faith means it's always blind. The mother tells the baby is your brother. Will the baby go on doing intellectual calculation? Is he my brother? I will go to the genetics expert and find out through the genes is he my real brother or not? No. The baby blindly believes in what a mother tells, a father tells, the teacher tells. You are reading mathematics, you are reading science, physics, you go to the class. Have you experimented yourself? Have you seen the earth is revolving around the sun or the sun is revolving around the earth is round in shape, or there are so many other theories? Have you tested it? Have you seen it for yourself? You just believe. You just swallow everything what your teacher tells in the form of science, mathematics, and everything. The calculation, the tables, the formulas. Have you gone to the original thing and found out, tested it? No. You just believe what the teacher told. Is it not blind belief? Belief is always blind. Is it scientific? Have you rationally taken it? Verified it? No. Then are you not unscientific? Is it not scientific blind belief? So now Ramakrishna put Vivekananda Narendra into very difficult situation. He asked Narendra, well, Naren, you are telling about blind faith. The master told Naren, well, can you explain to me what you mean by blind faith? All faith is indeed blind. All belief, all faith is indeed blind. But then, has faith any eye at all? They always tell in the other languages, everywhere they tell love is always blind. Love is always blind because it is based on faith. It's based on belief. It's based on Shraddha. So Shraddha doesn't have eye. It is just go and believe. That's all. So what a wonderful way. Can you see the intellect of Ramakrishna? It doesn't show off how sharp, how keen is the intelligence of Sri Ramakrishna. You call him uneducated, illiterate. He has only studied up to third or fourth grade. You call Ramakrishna uneducated. See the intellect, the best of the Western education, whom the professor in America told, if you put the intelligence of Swami Vivekananda and all the best professors, the brains of all the best professors in America on one scale, and the intelligence and the of Vivekananda on another scale, so it is much more. Vivekananda's intelligence is much more than all the professors put together in America. That was a statement given by one of the greatest professors in America when he saw the intelligence of Swami Vivekananda there. When he was asked to go and talk in the Parliament of Religions that he needed a credential, what was the reply by that professor? He told, do you want to give the sun a credential to shine? It is just like asking credentials from Swami Vivekananda to go and speak in the Parliament of Religions is just like asking the sun to show the credentials to shine or make the day. It's as good as that. So such was the intelligence of Swami Vivekananda. And see, that intelligence is cut, is simply silenced by just one word of Ramakrishna. Then just imagine what is the superiority and the intelligence of Sri Ramakrishna. Doesn't show off, just hidden. See how nicely, how very sweetly Ramakrishna is giving the bidding to Narendra. Well, Naren, can you explain me what do you mean by blind faith? All faith is indeed blind, but then has faith an eye at all? Speak either of faith or of knowledge. Only two. You can't mix up. No blind faith. You can't use that term at all. It's contradictory. It's just like modern days we call it a oxymoron. Oxymoron. So many varieties of oxymorons are there. So like that, it is an oxymoron or paradoxical. Blind faith. You can't use the term at all. It's wrong. You don't think at all. You are just using it. You yourself are using it blindly and you are calling it as a blind faith. You are using the term itself blindly. Never think, you have not never thought. Just simply tell blind faith. You can't use that term. How can there be eyes for the faith? Faith is always blind. Your faith is with eyes and my faith is without eyes. Faith is always without eyes, is blind. So that is what Sri Ramakrishna is so nicely explaining. All faith is indeed blind, but then has faith any eye at all? Speak either of faith or of knowledge. Speak either of faith or of knowledge. But no, you will speak of someone's faith as blind and of someone's others as having eyes. How can that be? How is that? Said the Swami later, indeed. Then later on, after that argumentation, Narendra accepted his defeat. Narendra was completely tied down. He couldn't speak after that. Fathom the intellect and the greatness of Ramakrishna's intellect. Do you want much more proof? Then the great intellect of Sri Ramakrishna, how much intellect he has. So Narendra is telling afterwards, hear the words of Narendra. Swami Vivekananda later on said, indeed, I was in a fix in trying to explain to Sri Ramakrishna that day the meaning of blind faith. I couldn't. How can he explain? He's caught. So Narendra himself is accepting his defeat. He's telling later on, Swami Vivekananda said, indeed, I was in a fix in trying to explain to Sri Ramakrishna that day the meaning of blind faith. I could find no meaning for the expression. I have given up using the phrase since then, as I was convinced of the truth of Sri Ramakrishna's contention. Either speak of faith or of knowledge. Don't mix it up. Faith is always blind, love is always blind, bhakti is always blind. It is faith, belief, that's all. Either speak of faith or knowledge. You can't tell somebody's faith is blind and somebody is with eyes. They're using contradictory times, paradoxical. It's oxymoron. Okay, so wonderful. Such things we have learned through Ramakrishna's teachings today, and the life is really very interesting. So, because we have almost completed our time now, we will stop our discussion. Now is the time for question and answer session. If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, you can now ask. Any questions? Pranams, Madhu. Yes, Madhu, please tell.
Yeah, Maharaj, during today's satsang, I think Thakur used to say you should keep always a part of your mind attached.
Yeah.
A part of your mind attached to God.
Always.
Mind can
That is
be.
all your work, worldly work, the housework.
So at least the day-to-day experience is once you are in a specific mood or when you're doing something, you are either 100% doing it or you are not there. Either you are there or you are not there. So how we can split the mind?
See, that is your belief. That is not the truth. I will give you an example. By Ramakrishna himself, I'll give you an example. See, now the example is one Swamiji called Niswanandaji Maharaj was there. He was the head of Delhi Center long back. He's no more. He was also called Baba Maharaj. So when he was in Delhi Center, a devotee came to him and asked him, Swamiji, I want to learn transcendental meditation, because at that time Mahesh Yogi had gone to the US and he had become very popular. He is the guru of the present Ravi Shankar Guruji, and all other people were all disciples of this uh, Mahesh Yogi. He was famous for transcendental meditation. So it was becoming popular at that time. So this devotee came to the Swami and told, I want to learn transcendental meditation from you. Then that Swamiji, very in a humorous way, told, I do not know transcendental meditation, but I know transcendental meditation. He told, I do not know transcendental meditation, but I know transcendental meditation. What is that, Swamiji? Transcendental meditation I want to learn. It has been taught by Ramakrishna himself. Please tell what is this transcendental meditation, because that is transcendental. This is transcendental meditation given by Ramakrishna. What is this transcendental meditation? Ramakrishna, if you have read the gospel, in that he tells, Madhu, anytime in your life did you have a toothache? Because if you have toothache only, you can understand this. Was there any caries in your tooth?
Yes.
And was there any problem? Yeah.
Yes, it was. I had.
Yeah, wonderful. So when you had that toothache, Ramakrishna now tells, when your tooth is paining because of the caries in your tooth and so much of pain, even if you take the medicine, constantly there will be 24 bar by 7, maybe 2, 3 days you will have the pain. Now your mind will be always on the pain. Then won't you do your day-to-day, everyday work with that pain?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, you go to the office, you study, you look after your children, you talk to your wife, you talk to your boss, you do all the works in spite of you having the toothache. So, major portion of your mind is on the tooth, pain of the tooth, isn't it?
Yes, Maharaj.
And with
Yes.
some portion of your mind, you are working, doing all the work of your day-to-day work, isn't it? Have you stopped your work during the tooth pain?
No. No, Maharaj.
Just told either 100% on one thing, 100% that thing. Where was your 100% mind now?
Yeah, Maharaj. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is transcendental meditation. So, like that, Ramakrishna tells when you have toothache, you keep some portion of your mind or major portion of your mind on the toothache and you go on continuing doing all the work, everything, the work of the office, the work of the, if you are studying, playing, or talking to your children, looking after your children, every work, the worldly work in your day, you will do in spite of the tooth pain. Major portion of your mind will be in the tooth, in the pain. Likewise, Sri Ramakrishna gives this wonderful example. He tells, keep your major chunk of your mind at the feet of the Lord, catch hold of the Lord's feet in one hand, and go on performing all the activities of the world in another hand. With example, that is transcendental meditation. So that Swami told, I do not know transcendental meditation of Mahesh Yogi. Ramakrishna has taught us transcendental meditation. So transcendental meditation of Sri Ramakrishna has been taught. Okay.
Yes,
I
Maharaj.
think I
Thank you. Maharaj.
cleared it out. Yes.
Yes,
Any
Maharaj.
other questions? Thank you, Madhu. Any other
Thank you.
doubts? Any other questions? Okay. There are no questions. There are no uh, doubts. So I can conclude today's session with a prayer. ॐ प्रियतां पुण्डरीकाक्षः सर्वयज्ञेश्वरो हरिः तस्मिन् तुष्टे जगत्तुष्टं प्रीणिते प्रीणितं जगत् हरिः ॐ तत्सत् श्रीरामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु. So we'll meet in next discussion of Great Master tomorrow. Thank you. Namaste.